Semen retention, discipline versus desire, the inner battlefield in the modern world, where instant gratification rules every corner of life. The idea of discipline feels almost ancient. With just a swipe, a click, or a scroll, people can access anything: pleasure, entertainment, or distraction. Desire has become the driving force of human behavior. Yet beneath the noise of indulgence, there exists a silent rebellion, a growing number of men rediscovering an ancient power: semen retention. This isn't just about physical control. It's a battle within discipline versus desire, purpose versus pleasure, growth versus decay. It's the inner battlefield every man must eventually face. The war within. From the moment a man begins his journey into manhood, he's bombarded with signals to chase pleasure. Advertisements, music videos, movies, and social media all glorify indulgence. The culture subtly whispers, "Give in, you deserve it." Yet, what it never says is the price of that surrender: energy depletion, mental fog, loss of drive, lack of focus, and a subtle emptiness that no amount of pleasure can fill. Semen retention flips this script entirely. It's the decision to hold your seed, to master your primal urges instead of being mastered by them. But make no mistake, this choice triggers war, because desire doesn't die quietly. It tempts, it whispers, it manipulates your thoughts and emotions. This is not just physical abstinence, it's psychological warfare. Modern desire, the overstimulated mind. Never before in history has the human brain faced such an overload of stimuli. A man in 2025 sees more sexual imagery in a week than a man from a century ago might have seen in his entire life. Dopamine, the chemical of reward, is constantly hijacked by artificial highs, scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows, swiping through dating apps, or consuming explicit content. Each hit of dopamine reinforces desire. The brain gets addicted not just to pleasure, but to instant pleasure. The modern man's willpower becomes fragile, constantly assaulted by temptation. That's why semen retention is not just about avoiding physical release, it is about rewiring your brain. It's about breaking free from this constant loop of desire and rediscovering control. The essence of discipline. Discipline is the quiet force that builds empires, creates art, and transforms ordinary men into extraordinary ones. In a world driven by comfort, discipline becomes rebellion. When a man practices semen retention, he's saying no to the easy path. Not because he hates pleasure, but because he values power. Each time he resists an urge, he strengthens his will. Each time he controls his thoughts, instead of being controlled by them, he sharpens his focus. Over time, this mental muscle grows. The same energy that once leaked away through indulgence now fuels creativity, purpose, and magnetism. Discipline turns chaos into clarity. Desire seeks escape. Discipline seeks elevation. This inner battle is where transformation begins. The subtle energy shift. Many men report feeling more alive after practicing semen retention, not just physically, but energetically. Their presence changes. Their voice becomes deeper. Their eyes hold intensity. It's not magic, it's biology and energy working together. The life force that once dissipated outward now circulates within, fueling ambition, confidence, and focus. Women sense it. People respect it. The man becomes magnetic without trying. Because his energy no longer leaks through endless craving, it radiates through purpose. But this stage only comes after enduring the battlefield. Before the glow comes the storm. The battlefield of the mind. In the early stages of retention, the mind rebels. Old habits fight back with fury. Night urges, fantasies, and memories flood your brain, tempting you to relapse. Your own mind becomes the enemy. This is where discipline faces its hardest test. The key is awareness. You can't win the battle by fighting every thought. You win by observing it. When desire arises, you don't suppress it. You witness it. You breathe through it. You remind yourself that you are not the urge, you are the observer behind it. Over time, the energy transforms. The same fire that once burned you begins to light your path. Desire. The double-edged sword. Desire itself isn't evil. In fact, it's necessary. Without desire, there's no motivation, no art, no love, no progress. Problem arises when desire rules you instead of serving you. When your entire energy is trapped in chasing pleasure, you become a slave to your senses. Retention isn't about killing desire, it's about mastering it. You don't extinguish the flame, you direct it. The same desire that once pulled you toward lust can push you toward greatness. That's the secret the ancients knew. The energy of desire is creative power. When channeled, it becomes genius. The modern masculine crisis. Today's world celebrates comfort and condemns struggle. Instant gratification is marketed as success. Yet deep down, men feel something missing, a sense of emptiness, disconnection, and lack of purpose. Semen retention speaks directly to that void. It reawakens the ancient masculine essence, the part that thrives in discipline, challenge, and conquest. Not of others, but of self. It reminds men that power isn't found in indulgence, but in restraint, not in chasing women, but in mastering their energy. Discipline isn't outdated. It's the only antidote to a weak, modern mind. Energy transmutation. When you hold your seed, energy builds up. That pressure can feel overwhelming. But if you learn to transmute it through physical training, meditation, creativity, or focused work, that energy becomes fuel. This is why many high performers, athletes, monks, and even CEOs practice forms of sexual discipline. They know it enhances focus, determination, and charisma. When you stop wasting energy chasing instant highs, you start channeling it into long-term success. Energy, like water, always flows. You can waste it on fantasies or use it to build empires. The spiritual dimension beyond biology, there's a deeper layer. The spiritual Semen is not just fluid. It's life essence, containing the blueprint of creation. Retaining it amplifies your inner vibration, aligning your mind and body with higher frequencies of consciousness. You become more intuitive, grounded, and aware. Ancient traditions from Taoism to yoga viewed this practice as sacred, not for suppression, but for transformation. The sexual energy, when conserved, awakens higher centers of power. Your thoughts become sharper, your emotions steadier, and your will unbreakable. The enemy within. The modern matrix, modern society profits when you're weak, distracted, and addicted. The system wants men drained physically, mentally, and emotionally, because a man who can't control his desire can be easily controlled. When you retain, you unplug from that system. You become independent of external validation. You no longer seek comfort in empty pleasure. That's why semen retention is dangerous. Not to you, but to the matrix that feeds on your attention. A disciplined man is unpredictable, self-reliant, and powerful. He's not swayed by trends or temptations. He walks his own path, and that makes him truly free. Real-life reflections. Think of great men who shaped history, warriors, visionaries, inventors. They all had one thing in common. They mastered their urges. Nikola Tesla, Muhammad Ali, Mahatma Gandhi, Steve Jobs all practiced some form of sexual restraint. They understood that energy is finite, and the one who masters it shapes destiny. In contrast, look at modern culture, flooded with lust, distraction, and escapism. The average man chases instant pleasure, while the disciplined man builds empires. The battlefield isn't outside, it's within. The rewards of discipline after consistent practice, changes become undeniable. Mental clarity. Your thoughts sharpen. Focus deepens. Confidence. You walk differently. You speak with authority. Presence. You command attention without words. Purpose. You stop chasing and start creating. When you stop leaking life energy, you start radiating it. Temptation will never disappear. Even the strongest men feel temptation. The difference is, they don't obey it. The modern man must learn to live with desire without being consumed by it, to feel the fire and still remain in control. You cannot win this war by avoiding temptation, but by facing it and realizing it has no real power unless you give it power. Every victory strengthens your inner kingdom. Every relapse teaches humility. Both are part of the path. Integration. Discipline as freedom. Here's the paradox. True freedom comes from discipline. When you're a slave to desire, you think you're free because you can do what you want. But in truth, you're being led by impulse. Discipline flips that. It gives you control over your choices. It frees you from addiction, distraction, and regret. Retention trains this kind of freedom. Freedom from lust, from anxiety, from weakness. You become the master of your body, your mind, your destiny. The modern monk mentality. You don't need to live in a cave to practice mastery. You can be in the modern world in business, relationships, social circles, and still hold the essence of a monk. The modern monk doesn't escape life. He conquers it. He channels sexual energy into leadership, creativity, and spiritual evolution. His power doesn't come from suppression, but from balance. He knows when to act and when to restrain. He's grounded, not repressed. Radiant, not reactive. The awakening as you progress on this path, you begin to see how most of society lives trapped in loops of desire, always chasing, never fulfilled. You, however, rise above. You no longer chase validation, you embody it. You no longer seek pleasure. You create it through purpose. That's when you realize the ultimate truth. Semen retention isn't about holding energy, it's about becoming energy. It's about living consciously in a world built on unconscious indulgence. The conclusion. The warrior within the real battle was never against women, lust, or the world. It was against yourself. The man who conquers his desire conquers everything. Semen retention is the training ground of warriors, the silent forge of kings. Discipline is your sword. Desire is your test. Every day, the battlefield awaits. In your mind, in your habits, in your choices. When you master both, you don't destroy desire, you transcend it. You become the rarest kind of man in the modern world, one who is powerful, peaceful, and purposeful. Because in the end, discipline isn't the opposite of desire, it's the evolution of it. And that evolution is the true victory on the inner battlefield. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to drop your location in the comments. I love to know where you are watching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description.